We might be too young to have a spotted cow, but we are both diehard Packers fans.
I could talk about this for hours.
He was my legend. He was my quarterback one. Taysom Hill, forever in my heart.
We have a kind of a reputation of being the young and diehard fans. How was that, Dr. Pepper Taysom?
Amazing.
Okay, good. Let's keep it under 25 minutes, all right?
We are less than a week away from the NFL draft. Get excited, people. Get your mock drafts out there. The wait is almost over. This last 4 or 5 days is going to be a long 4 or 5 days, but I am incredibly excited for this. We are also this is an important episode for Underage Packers because this is the first episode we are making after being around for 2 years. Pat on the back for ourselves right there. Our 2-year anniversary for the show was this Thursday, April 21st. Now we are in year 2. Kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah.
But I am Joey, and joining me, my co-host, as usual, for this draft preview episode is Big B. How are you feeling today?
Feeling amazing. How are you doing today?
I am great. I got my Dr. Pepper with me. That's all I need to be feeling good, to be honest with you. And yeah, it's it's Carefree Friday right now, so that's always fun.
Oh yeah.
So today we're going to be talking about some random stuff that we've missed since our last episode that we did, which was an episode that we did with Tyler Brook from SB Nation, and he also just picked up a new gig. But we talked with Tyler basically saying that, look, me and Big B, we don't know a lot about the draft. Can you tell us? So make sure you watch that, because just a fair warning in this episode, we're not going to tell you anything new about prospects specifically. Our goal will be the same as all of our episodes are, even during the regular season where we're previewing games. We're going to present the information that you probably know, but we're going to present it in a Packers-directed way and in a way that is fun. We're going to have a good time with it. So hopefully we're able to achieve that today, and hopefully you enjoy it. So talking about some stuff we've missed since then, we'll talk about the draft because obviously it is an exciting event. So let's hop right into it. And I wanted to talk about a very important thing. I guess I wanted to put out a public statement or a PSA. I forget what PS stands for. It's a PSA. All right, people, if you are unfamiliar with this meme on NFL Twitter, where there is a guy who looks like Larry Fitzgerald, he's got dreads, he's kind of tall, he's got a suitcase next to him, and he's like checking in at an airport. If you have not seen that picture used in a tweet that it has a caption like X player has been spotted at X airport to possibly sign with a team, I don't know where you have been. Like, have you been living under a rock? I don't know how you have been on NFL Twitter for this long and have not seen this picture used. And I thought this was common knowledge. I thought everybody was familiar enough with it where, obviously nobody's going to be tricked by it, but they'll find it funny. Oh, it's that same meme. Ha ha ha. But I was completely wrong. There's apparently a lot of people that have not seen this, because I tweeted out on the Underage Packers Twitter account. Make sure to follow us there, by the way. I tweeted out on there that I tweeted out that picture with the caption, Debo's uncle, Sebo Samuel, just posted this photo of Debo at Austin Straubel Airport, which Austin Straubel is the Green Bay airport. And it did some good numbers, 712 likes. But a lot of these replies are something like that, they're pointing out that there's a sign in the airport that says Hertz Boston. So this couldn't be Austin Straubel Airport. But also it looks absolutely nothing like Debo Samuel. And also just the fact that we put Sebo is his uncle's name. Folks, you saw Sebo and you thought, oh, fair enough. I guess that makes sense. I guess his dad is probably Meebo. what? So people really were thrown for a loop in this one. And I mean, like, let me see here. Yeah, obviously a lot of people pointing out it says Fritz Boston. Thanks, folks. Thanks, Shakespeare. Or no, what's a detective's name? Anyways, I won't mull on this for too long, but educate yourself. Understand this. Have the critical thinking skills that I was taught in 9th grade history class 2 years ago. Critical thinking. It really comes in handy with the internet, folks. But I thank you for the confusion in the comments that got us a lot of engagement. Now on to the Packers signing wide receiver Sammy Watkins. Me and Big B already talked about this in a video we made on the day of the signing, which was April 14th, so last Wednesday. I was literally walking around in the mall on spring break when I got that notification, and I went to Chick-fil-A, priorities first, and then I rushed home to make this video that we made on Sammy Watkins. So we're not going to talk about it for too long, but it's great for the Packers to have this flexibility in the draft. And also, I mean, he's a good player. You know, he's been in the league for 7 or 8 years now, I think. I remember him first coming out as a rookie out of Clemson and then playing with Buffalo. And then his career, like, slowly fallen down. But that doesn't matter. He's going to be a great wide receiver for the Packers. You know, that's the important part here. And it's a better, free agency period for the Packers than last year, I guess you could say, because last year the only signing the Packers made in free agency was long snapper Joe Fortunato, and he didn't even win the long snapper battle out of camp. So, there's that. So we signed Ron Reed, we signed Sammy Watkins, 2 players at positions of need there. You'll love to see it.
Mhm.
Now, it is time to talk about the draft. I was talking with Big V before we started recording this, that this episode needs to match the energy of right when the draft is starting. Commissioner Raj just came up to the stage and, he put his hand on that podium and he said, he probably delivered some corporate message from the NFL, but then he says, the NFL draft is now open. The Jacksonville Jaguars are now on the clock, and the crowd goes nuts, at least in the pre-pandemic days, and now we're back to that. We're going to have a great crowd there in Las Vegas. And, everybody's going nuts. It's awesome. Twitter is set ablaze already, and, you got Mel Kiper, you got Daniel Jeremiah. You're switching between the channels, and they're telling you about a player that might go number 1, might go number 2, even though you already know who's going to go number 1 because they've been talking about it for the last 5 months. But, it's all excitement all around. And you got your pizza, you got your wings, you got your Dr. Peppers all laid out on the table. And the hype is just ungodly levels. So we need this episode, this draft talk, to match that energy. It probably won't.
Mhm.
Or at least I'll be very hypocritical of the episode when I go back to listen to it when I'm editing. But let's just have a fun time talking about the draft. We'll talk about our draft crushes here just in a second. We'll talk about should the Packers trade up or down. We'll talk about the people that we hate during the draft process. We talk about some mid-round moves for the Packers, and then we'll make some bold predictions just for the sake that we can revisit them in a week or so and say we were right.
Mhm.
Big B, are you ready to hop into this draft talk?
Oh man, I was born ready. Let's do it.
You were born ready? All right, then let's hear your draft crushes. I want to hear 2 of your draft crushes on offense and 2 on defense.
All right, I'm gonna go with offense first, and my first one is Trevor Penning. I like his toughness. I like his physicality. I like the physical guys. I like the guys who will get in your face and talk a little bit of trash. Love them guys. And my other one kind of fits that same mold. George Pickens. I love me some George Pickens. He is a bully. I love him. He might have some character issues, but we don't have to talk about that. That's not important right now.
Right.
And then on defense, I'm going to go with my first one with Nakobe Dean. He flies around the field. He really reminds me of Devin White. And him next to Devondre Campbell,
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I need it. I need it in my life. I need to watch it every Sunday. It would be absolutely beautiful. And for my second one on defense, I'm gonna say Lewis Seen as well from Georgia. 3 Georgia players. They just pumping out the amazing football players down there. I don't know what they're doing down there, but it's pretty wild, I would say.
Uh,
Lewis
Yeah,
Seen, he will knock your head off, and I love them type of DBs. Love the hard hitting DBs. Give me all of them.
exactly. Let's infuse some aggressiveness, some not Montez Perfect level maybe or Pac-Man Jones of the Bengals in those days, but let's just get some attitude, some nasty on this defense. I'm all here for that. We got the key pieces. You got Devondre, you got Jair, you got Rasul, you got Eric Stokes developing, you got one of my favorite players in Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark on the line. Let's just infuse a bad mofo now onto that defense. I like Lewis Seen there as a pick.
Yes, and that's
From
that's why I liked Josh Jones a couple years ago. Packer legend. He
man,
always knocks some people's heads off.
he did. He did, and I almost think there was a little bit of potential there that the Packers and the Mike McCarthy days and the Ted, like they wanted to avoid those nasty players a little bit, which I get.
Mhm.
But I feel like his talented would be limited. I'm not saying that he had the potential to be, I don't know, like, Ed Reed or Ray Lewis. But, just maybe Josh Jones talented was limited. I'm not sure.
Yes, but moral of my story is I like them dogs.
Yes. For my draft crushes here, I have on defensive side of the ball, I have George Karlaftis out of Purdue. He's an edge rusher. This is just one guy that I've loved watching his highlights. Like I said at the top of this episode, we don't have any great draft knowledge to tell you about, but this is just one guy, like I said, who, man, him with Sean Gary and Preston Smith is just a dream trio of pass rushers. I don't even think he has to take too much time to develop. I really think you put him out there on the line and he's like a bull seeing red. He'll just get after that quarterback. Be a big fan of George. And then you also have Daxton Hill from Michigan, who, I originally fell in love with Jalen Petre out of Oregon. But I think Daxton Hill is him on crack. Or to say it more professionally, Daxton Hill is Jalen Petre, just a more smoother, well-rounded out prospect. He was a 5-star recruit out of a high school, not that that matters, but he's a great player and can definitely fill that need for the Packers at a long-term safety if they do end up having to move on from either Darnell Savage or Adrian Amos after this year. And for this year, at least, can play slot safety and also dime backer. On the offensive side of things, I had a tough time just choosing a singular, out of the many receivers and offensive tackles that will be available to the Packers. I had a tough time, but I went with Christian Watson out of North Dakota State, 6'5", just a guy that can make the tight catches, big time playmaker. And yeah, I'm pretty much just describing what a wide receiver does, but he's really good. That boy, nice. Go watch his YouTube highlights. Then I went with Treylon Burks out of Arkansas. Big guy at wide receivers. Exactly fits the Packers type. Great run blocker as well, and very aggressive catch. At least for me, I guess you could say he's Calvin Johnson. He pretty much is Calvin Johnson. He's better than Calvin Johnson. He's going to be the next Packers Hall of Fame wide receiver. Write it down right now. There is my draft crushes for you.
Yes, I really like George Kalafis because I saw somewhere that he could potentially fill that Za'Darius role, and we could move him around, line him up
Yes.
over the center and stuff. And when I heard that, I don't care what we do. I really want him in a Packers uniform. But yeah, I found that very interesting.
Yeah, it was really a shame how Za'Darius season played out, obviously, this year. just because it was going to be so exciting that we now had a pretty much fully developed Rashawn Gary, that guy to the left of me. And then, Preston Smith was coming off a down year, but we all know him. He's got to have a bad year and then a good year. He's an every other year type guy. And then we had Za'Darius. We had 3 great pass rushers. We could have moved Za'Darius all around the line with Joe Barry's new defense. And then Za'Darius goes down in camp, plays a little bit in week 1, and then doesn't return until the divisional loss. And the offense sucked that game, obviously. We could talk about that game all day. But anyways, yeah, it was – sorry to bring that back up. But, yeah, it was a shame to see Za'Darius go down. And, edge is definitely going to be a need for the Packers this year, just to have depth there at the very least, so we don't have to rely on Tipanali and Jonathan Garvin, who I love, but they need better depth there. And also, like we were just talking about, with what Za'Darius had promised to be a rotational piece.
And as well, don't forget about Randy Ramsey. He's coming off that injury. He's a very good special teamer, and I think that he could fill that third outside linebacker role, potentially, if he does come back healthy. I'm very excited to see what he does coming back.
Randy Ramsey comeback season, am I right? People are excited about getting Jair Alexander back, Robert Tonyan back. It's Randy Ramsey comeback season, folks. That's an important player.
Yes.
He's
the best. He's the best Ramsey in the NFL. Just saying. Just saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty fair take.
Yes.
Now, next up on the things to talk about, will the Packers trade up or down? Will they be moving around? I'm sure they will at some point in this draft, but specifically in the first round. Besides 2021, Brian Gutekunst has traded up in all of his drafts. He had traded up from pick 28 to pick 18 to select Jair Alexander in 2018. Then in 2019, trading up from, 26 to 21 to select Darnell Savage. And then in 2020, trading up from 29 to 26 to select Jordan Love, and then, nothing in 2021. But he's an aggressive guy. Big B, do you think that trend continues in 2022, or do you think he stays put or moves down?
I'm going to say he stays put at 22, but he will move the 28th pick. I don't know if it's going to be up or down. I have a feeling it's going to be down, but I have a feeling 28th pick. We're not going to stay at 28. Is all I'm saying.
I completely agree with you. I could see the one case, and I'd really hate this, but the one case I think that would make sense for them would be trading both 28 and 22, moving up a big boy spot to select a wide receiver. But that just does not seem like the Packers, something they would do. But who knows? Maybe they are just like dying to get like Jameson Williams, Garrett Wilson. Maybe they're just dying to get one of those guys that they think is going to go higher and they want to get them. They could also trade up just 22, maybe get to pick 15 just to get ahead of the New Orleans Saints now. Get ahead of them so they can select Chris Olave. I think wide receiver is one that would make sense for them to trade up for. I would agree with you, though. I think they're going to stay put at 22. 28, I could definitely see going either way. Trading down would make sense just for the case where it's like, obviously, it depends what they end up doing at 22. But at 28, if they're like, you know what, we don't like any of these players that much, or we think we can get the player we want right now early on in round 2, let's trade down, get the most value possible. So, at least we have the comfortability this year that they're probably not going to trade out of the first round 2 times. Probably not going to do that. So we won't be staying up all night just for them to trade down. That's
oh my god! Imagine though. Imagine.
Oh my god. That's awful. I remember the Kevin King year.
Oh man.
2017. You got Ryan Ramczyk, TJ Watt on the board. That's not the important part, but just like, oh, they can still get this guy. Like, you're just, for the 5 picks ahead, you're like, oh, please don't take them. They don't. And then you get to the Packers selection. Nah, we'll trade down.
Like, they couldn't do that at like 8 o'clock when the thing started. Like, jeez.
Exactly. Like, I'm fine with you doing that, Ted, but just give me a warning. You don't have to tell anybody else. Just tell me so I'm not staying up. Like, I mean, I'd probably watch the rest of the draft anyways, but it's just that hope. And then you're sitting there at 11 o'clock and you're like, well, guess I'll have that leftover pizza now. So there's that whole. That's a good part. We don't have to worry about that happening for this year. Now let's talk about rounds 2 or 3, because obviously there's a lot of talk around what the Packers will do on day 1 for good reason. The picks 22 and 28 are going to be the exciting ones, and then also 53 and 59. But what about the 92nd? What about the 100th and so odd number? They have 2 4th-round picks. How exciting. So I guess I'll ask you, Big B, what are some positions you think that after they get their main needs addressed at wide receiver, safety, edge in the first few rounds, what are some positions you think the Packers might be looking at then?
Probably offensive tackle. I don't see them going offensive tackle high because I do think they will give Yash the opportunity at right tackle before Elton comes back, and then I think Elton will take over. So I don't think right tackle is a first round need, I guess you would say. I definitely see them taking one like Abe Lucas in the 2nd or 3rd round.
Okay. Yeah, offensive tackle is an interesting one, and this is just, again, one of those positions that just depends on who is available. That's what all of the draft depends on. So that will be a tough one, an interesting one to watch. The greatest example of that is in 2020 when the Packers really needed a wide receiver, but they just kept on getting like in a position where they're like, nah, we can't do much here. You recall in the first round when they traded up, and you can believe what you want. You can believe the rumor that they originally traded up for Brandon Ayuk or Justin Jefferson, and then one of them went. You can believe that rumor. I don't want to believe that rumor. I believe that they had the intention to trade up and select short and left, but they were very high on Brandon Ayuk. They were very high on Justin Jefferson for a good reason, and they weren't able to select one. Then fast forward to round 2, and Denzel Mims keeps on falling. Well, there was a run on wide receivers early on in round 2. I mean, you had T. Higgins, Laviska Shenault, but then Denzel Mims, you're looking at him and you're like, shoot, this guy was supposed to be like a first-round pick, and he keeps on falling. Denzel Mims from Baylor, he falls all the way until pick 59, and the Jets take him, which was like 3 picks before the Packers. And it's easy to say, well, why didn't they trade up? He's fallen so far. But, I mean, for one, there had to be a reason he was falling. And 2, just because a trade didn't end up being successful doesn't mean they weren't calling. It takes 2 to tango. So, it's hard to say. So, and then at that point, when the Packers were on the clock, it was like, we're going to have to end up reaching on wide receiver if we take one here. So we'll go with A.J. Dillon. Not that they didn't want A.J. Dillon, but it didn't make sense for them to take a wide receiver there. So point in case being, like, just so much of this depends on who is there, obviously. And that sometimes can lead to having needs going unaddressed, which is exactly why they signed Sammy Watkins, so they don't have to reach on somebody. Thank you. Thanks for coming to my 2-minute TED Talk, my TED brief. Thank you. As far as my answer to my own question about what the Packers look for on day 2 or day 3, I would definitely look at tight end, just because, Jay Sternberger did not pan out. But I do think the tight end room is an interesting one, because it's just so many players that are question marks almost. What you have in Mercedes Lewis, big dog, I love him. But like the Packers have been giving him 1-year contracts year after year for a reason. They don't know when he's going to retire. They don't know when he's just like somehow age is going to finally catch up to him. But then also you have Josiah DeGuara, who was pretty much, I guess you could say, in his redshirt rookie year last year. Still a question mark there. I still think he can be great in the receiving game. He was shaky at H-back last year for what we drafted him for, at least compared to Dominique Daphne, who is another question mark. He might be a guy who's almost a fringe roster guy every year just because it's like, could we use Robert Tonyan or Josiah DeGuara in this situation instead of Dom? Like, is his roster spot really needed? But I'm a big fan of Dom Daphne. Whoever hacked his Twitter account, give it back now. And then you also have Tyler Davis, who is also kind of another version of Dominique Daphne. Love me some Tyler Davis action. There's just a lot of question marks there. So drafting the tight end, not only to be a pass catcher, another weapon for Aaron Rodgers to add into that game, but also just to give you a little more comfort in mind about the future of the tight end position. See them going there. Other than that, I really think they're going to build on depth for this year's draft. I would be surprised if even outside of, they get their Christian Watson or their Chris Olave early on at wide receiver, but then also at least I would say 2 more wide receivers, day 2 and day 3. So that'll certainly be interesting to watch how the Packers attacked the middle to late rounds. All right, now it is time for our bold predictions. Baby, I got no guidelines for you. Let's just hear your bold predictions, whether it's a player the Packers are going to take, whether it's a position the Packers aren't going to take, or, just lay it out for us. Your bold prediction, it can be for night 1, night 2. Let's hear it.
Okay. I'm going to go with the Packers will take Khalil Shakir from Boise State in this year's draft. He will be a Green Bay Packer. I am booking it right here.
Okay. I'm gonna say that I should have prepared this before, but I'm gonna say the Packers are gonna move up in round 2.
Ooh, interesting.
That just came out of the top of my mind, but trade up in round 2 because some player is gonna be falling. It's gonna be like Denzel Mims a few years ago. And suddenly the Packers are going to trade up from. That's my bold prediction here. Thank you. Speaking of bold predictions and players falling, there's a certain sector of the internet when it comes to the draft that just simply cannot process the fact that the draft does not go to plan. And no matter how many scouting reports you read or how much film you watch on YouTube, nobody has any idea how this draft stuff is going to go. So then those people who were never told when they were a little kid that the world doesn't revolve around them and they're not always right, you see, then they make it their mission to go on Twitter, go on YouTube, and let everyone know they are wrong. Everyone who has an idea that doesn't agree with the preconceived notions of how the draft is going to go, those people are after them. And see, parents, this is important to tell your little boogers, all right, that the world doesn't revolve about them, because or else they're gonna go out there and they're gonna grow up to be one of these, those I'd like to use a lot of words right now. And this frustration from me mainly comes from publishing draft content on YouTube and spending a unreasonable amount of time on Twitter. If I had more of a life, this probably wouldn't be a problem for me. But you see, there's these people out there who, if you, suggest that the Packers are going to take this player, or a team's going to take this player, they'll be like, that is never going to happen. How stupid are you? And you see, my favorite version of this is, oh, that player's never going to be available there. Why would you think that? Like, folks, have you ever watched an NFL draft before? Like, okay, I get it. In my first mock draft, when I had Jordan Davis going in the second round, sure, you're fine to tell me all of that nonsense. But like Jermaine Johnson in the first round at a certain pick, or Chris Olave at a certain pick in the first round, to a certain extent, it's like you have no idea how this is going to go. If we had a good idea of how the draft was going to go, there'd be no point to watch it. Like, I know you have 60 mock drafts. I know you've read every single one because you think it's valuable content. Mm-hmm. But like, I cannot get past the frustration I have with people that think they know how this is going to go.
Yes.
And I'm not shutting down anybody who has an opinion to share. But look, the draft is an absolutely crazy process, crazy event when you think about it. These teams are choosing players, making decisions in a span of 10 minutes in the first round that will affect their franchise's future for the next 10 years, especially if they have a top 10 pick. Like, that is an incredibly important decision that can be changed in a matter of seconds. Your plan can be completely destroyed in a matter of 2 selections if you have your eyes on a quarterback or on a key pass rusher. So that's why these people, that's why there's only 32 NFL general managers. Mm-hmm. Like, this is an incredibly tough job. And while you can think that you're all smart because you watch 10 minutes on YouTube of highlights, or, maybe you even watched the game. You watched all college football games this season. Like, these are incredibly tough decisions that they have, there's a whole team of scouts, whole team of front office personnel that are making these decisions to correctly evaluate the prospects, make the right moves to trade up from. So you have no idea how it's going to go. There's going to be unexpected things that happen. Like I was talking about earlier, Denzel Mims falling, Christian Barmore falling 2 years ago, or Josh Jones, offensive tackle from University of Houston, who was going to be like a late first-round prospect and fell to the 3rd round. Nobody has any idea how this is going to go. Players are going to fall. Players are going to go higher than expected. And then those same people are going to publish draft grades, some nonsense like that, the next day, and tell everybody why this is the stupidest selection of all time without seeing them play a single snap in their NFL career. It's going to happen. So,
and that's why nobody likes PFF.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I have to say about this. Whenever I think of draft grades and the idiocy of like most draft content, I think of a guy who I got in an argument with, and was a Bears fan. And he was like, it was the offseason of 2020 following the draft. And he was like, the Packers are probably going to go 6 and 10 this year because we didn't draft a wide receiver. And he literally used, in his argument, he took screenshots of PFF's draft grades and showed me like Jordan Love had like a D- and AJ Dillon an F. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, and then I ended up winning the argument just because this was mean of me, but I just like, I looked at his profile picture because it was him at Disneyland in like Mickey Mouse ears. So I just saved his profile picture. I just put that in a tweet in a response to him. Didn't say any words with it. Just sent that back, and he blocked me. So that was kind of cruel of me, but it was needed. Sometimes you need to make fun of people if they want to use draft grades in a serious argument.
Correct.
Yeah, like sometimes it's needed.
This has nothing to do with the conversation or the argument you just had, but that reminds me of the time when I got in an argument with somebody. I just got sick of arguing with them. So every time he replied, I just replied with, "Congratulations, you just won a prize." Every single time until he shut it up. It worked. I mean,
That's fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, really thank God for the mute button on Twitter. And I use that very liberally. I don't want to block them. They can still like my stuff, but, I don't want to hear from them. I don't, So that's my rant. Big B, anything you want to add, any slander you want to throw on draft grades? It would be fun to look back at draft grades, and just see how wrong they were from the past few years. That would be a lot of fun. But any other thoughts you wanted to add here?
No, not really. Yeah, you just don't know what's going to happen in the draft. And Packers pretty much will go any position they want to. And It wouldn't shock me. Any position you can name, I wouldn't be shocked, except quarterback. Any other position, I wouldn't be shocked at them selecting. And that's why I selected a quarterback in my mock draft, and nobody cares what you think. Boom.
Right, I was like, when you selected a quarter in your latest mock draft and the last one, I was like, I don't exactly agree with that, but anything can happen. Like you just said, besides quarterback, running back, tight end, just because of how the position is this year. Really, any other position besides that, I could see them taking in the first round. There's certain ones that you could pick out that are much more likely than the others, but who knows?
Hey, and I even gave some valid points on why select wouldn't be the worst possible scenario in the first round, and I still get yelled at for taking a corner. I'm sorry, just whatever.
Yeah, you had some good defense.
Yes.
Now, speaking of unexpected things, I wanted to bring this up. I'm sure we brought this back up last year when we were previewing the draft, but as we mentioned at the top of the episode, it was just recently our 2-year anniversary of the show. And on our very second episode, we had our friend Norman on, which we're now both great friends with.
I hate him. But...
Yeah. We pretend to be friends with him.
Yes.
Just not to cause any conflict. And so we were talking with Norm, and we had him on to preview the 2020 draft. And it was a fun time. We had some great conversations, but and I went back and listened to this whole episode, which was interesting to listen to, just because of difference in our voices from now compared to then. And also, we were much better at podcasting in general than I thought we were. On our second episode, I was like, dang, that's actually a pretty good job. Besides the software we were using.
Yes, besides having to stop every 10 minutes to re-enter the thing, we were
yeah, we were better off than I thought we were. But anyways,
not being cocky or anything, but
yeah, we had talked about, we had in our script to talk about Jordan Love, and we did a round table asking everybody, all right, do the Packers select a quarterback this year, specifically Jordan Love? There was also talk of us possibly taking Jake Fromm or also Jacob Eason for two kind of mid-round quarterbacks that year. So we just asked, do we take a quarterback this year? And we had some interesting answers. So I want to play that clip.
Big question: does Green Bay look for Rodgers' replacement this year, possibly Jordan Love at 30?
I say no. Rodgers wants to play until he's 40. I don't think right now would be a good idea, especially the way to start first round pick on a quarterback, even though we did that in 2005. But I just don't see it.
Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts?
You know what? I'll tell you something that I think's interesting. If Jordan Love is there at 30, which first of all, I don't even think he's going to make it to 30, but who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't even imagine the Packers social media fans if they traded up to get Jordan Love, let alone take him at 30. But anyway, that's a really interesting pick at 30. And something I like to mention here is I I really understand the pick. I think Aaron Rodgers would understand the pick. And I know a lot of people like to focus on, his like quote unquote window that he has left. The Packers are still going to be a football team after, after he's gone. And I'm not saying that they have to take a quarterback early in this draft, but I think that's something they should maybe look to do. And especially if, let's say, Jordan Love is like the best player available at 30, all the other guys that are available, they have like mid-second round grades on or stuff like that. And then, as for trade offers, maybe they don't get a good trade offer from a team. Like if Jordan Love is the best player available, and it's not the hottest need right now, but he just, and that's another guy, like another reason to take him if he's there, if he's the best player available. Let's say Rodgers goes down for like 3 games. Do we come on? We all love, the Tim Boyle laser show, but like,
Yeah.
is he really going to get us over that hump of, maybe 3 or 4 games if Rodgers has a minor injury? And I'm not saying Jordan Love will, but I just like his chances better than Tim Boyle's, and it would just give, everyone knows that's paid attention to Jordan Love. He has a humongous ceiling, but we don't know what his floor is, and I think that's going to scare a lot of teams away. So,
Norman freaking Gratz out there saying not only that if the Packers really like him, they'll take him, but also my favorite comment, this Packers Podcast Hall of Fame, Norman Gratz on the second episode of what was formerly called the Acme Packers Podcast. Norman says, I cannot even imagine Packers social media fans if the Packers trade up for Jordan Love. Oh my God.
The man is from the future. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He truly is.
Mhm.
That is just an amazing comment. And I will remember that night, specifically like just that 5 minutes from the Packers trading up and being like, oh, it must be Patrick Queen because he's around later than I thought he would be. Or maybe Kenneth was already gone by that time. It was a little bit like, shoot, what are they doing? Ayuk and Jefferson just went. What, are they getting a wide receiver? But my brother Dave, who I was watching with, went in our basement, and he's like, oh, it's Love. Not because he knew or had like Twitter leaks or anything. He's like he just wanted, to like get on my nerves. So I was like, no, it's not Jordan. And then just like I could tell as soon as Roger, as soon as I heard the JO, I knew it. It's like, oh my God. And I really just stood in shock there for a few seconds.
Same.
And then there was not a single moment until day 3 when they selected John Runyon, those offensive linemen. There was not a single moment. Or Kamal Martin, I guess, too, I was happy for. But, every pick, Jordan Love, A.J. Dillon, Josiah DeGuara, it took me a little bit to come to terms with those.
Oh, yes. I will admit I was crying when we picked A.J. Dillon because I knew my boy's time was over and I was sad. I didn't want it to end.
Ugh.
And it unfortunately ended. And just not a good night. It's not a good night. Okay.
Yeah. I was really just like, what in God's name is happening right now? It's and I understand that, because I remember somebody was, Josiah is pretty much just a fullback. AJ Dillon, and I understood AJ Dillon for the reason of Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon were coming up on contract, or Jamal Williams were coming up on contract years.
The goat!
Oh God. And I understood that reason, but I was like, why in the second round? Man, 2020 draft, a memorable one for Packers fans. You can at the very least say that.
Yes.
That is where we're going to end off this episode. We'll probably have some more draft content this week, but not an episode until draft night. So you better soak this one up, people. We thank you so much for tuning in to this episode 102 of the Underage Packers podcast. It was a great time. If you did enjoy it, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube or leave a good rating on the Spotify or the Apple Podcast account. I just rechecked the Apple Podcast ratings for the first time in forever. And like the only one that has like a written review, I need to pull it up right now because it's hilarious. It's just like very blunt, and it's basically just like, this was the worst podcast I ever listened to, and my ears are bleeding right now. Let me pull this one up right now.
Okay. You got me curious. I don't look at this stuff, so you got me curious now.
Yeah. So overall, we have a 3.4 star rating out of 5, 6 total ratings. But Jern Athern on November 27, 2021 said, awful, just awful, with the heading, don't even try.
Oh, jeez.
That was pretty cruel.
What? Oh my God. All
and
right.
I even like, I went back and listened to like the episode we recorded on the most recent date, so the one you probably listened to, and I was like, this wasn't a bad episode, so I don't get it. But there's that. Turn public perception around. Leave us a good rating on Apple Podcasts. You can now rate on Spotify too, so make sure you do that. And follow us on all the social media. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You know the deal. You know the routine. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you later. Go Pack, go.